What's up, guys? Justin Napier here with another old Ironslides interview. This time I've got the man, the myth, the legend, David Leffel. David, how are you doing, buddy?
Real good, thank you.
Man, so me and you have known each other for quite a while. I think you actually, you kind of met when I first got into drifting. I know you've been drifting for a very, very long time. So we'll start from the top. How long have you been drifting?
So probably looks like about 7 years now. I mean, when I look back at the pics and when we started building the truck and so forth, so that's about the first time. We've had multiple drift cars, along with the drift truck. So we've kind of evolved the truck over time, I guess you could say.
Okay. Multiple drift cars. So let's see. I'm familiar with your truck, and I've seen your Mustang a handful of times. Is the only two you currently have, or how many drift cars have you had over the 7 years?
So we've had two S13s and one S97 outside of the current Mustang that I have. So we did two LS swaps in the S13s, one with a supercharger that I acquired from Taylor Hall's, one of Taylor's old motors, and then that one got wrecked up in Bristol from my son. He put her in the wall, and then we sold the other one, and we built the S. We kind of got out of the LS stuff and just tried to concentrate more on the Ford stuff and keep it more parts centralized, I guess you could say. So we built the S197 car after that, but in the meantime, the truck was always in progress, I guess you could say.
Okay, so the truck wasn't the first.
I would say it was started, but probably not finished first.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you didn't debut drifting with the truck. You debuted in a 240SX.
Come to think of it, I think we debuted the truck at Bristol with the stock 4-link and a carbureted setup. So I do think we did get that truck done before we did do that next LS S13, if memory recalls. It was real close in the same timeline there. We were working on it.
Yeah, and me and you were in the same community, I believe. You're from the Knoxville area, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So we share a little bit of the same community. So back then, were you kind of the only guy that you knew of driving an old school vehicle?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the story as it is we went to a drift event at Chilhowie Park, obviously with East 10 back then, and I kind of knew Brian Broberg a little bit, and I jumped in his car, and we were talking and just kind of joking, to be honest, and he's like, you don't really want to get in here because you're just going to want to build one. I'm like, probably not, I said, but sure enough, we went for a ride. I was like, yep, I'm going to build one, and probably not only just going to build a car, I'm probably going to build an old truck. So that's kind of where it started. And it was, we had no clue at that point, right? But we kind of, after a while, figured it all out and went through multiple changes on the truck to get it where it is today, for sure. So it's kind of how the truck birth started, I guess.
I can definitely relate to bringing an old school vehicle out and kind of being like, we're going to figure this out one step at a time. So was it father-son team the entire time, or was it something you got into and then you started telling your son about?
Yeah, so I got into it starting to build the truck just because, I wanted to, and then eventually he got interested. We built him the white S13. And he went on to win one of the grassroots events with it. After that, and, the truck, we just we debuted it at Bristol. And back then, obviously, of course, there was no angle kits, as you know. We just had to start with something. We started with a old Mustang 2 front end and drop spindles on it. And, we did cut those knuckles a little bit, get some angle, but not nothing like we have. And we had a 4-link in the rear, and that thing was a donut queen at the time. So
yeah,
it did not do what we wanted, but it spin around. It do some donuts.
So where the truck stands now, like how different is the truck nowadays? I last time I I'll be honest with you, the first time I ever seen it, which was back in 22, I was like, this thing is insanely engineered. It almost looks like a tube chassis to me, but I'm not entirely sure. So why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so it state, so we started with a naturally aspirated 347. We blew that up eventually. We went to a twin turbo 347 at the time, and then we did do a dark block at the time. So we went to cheap Chinese twin turbos. I mean, the truck ran awesome. I hate to say it, but it really ran good on those turbos. But after that, of course, I got to know Chuckle's Garage out of California. We ran Pikes Peak, and he was a big Garrett guy, turbos, and he got me hooked up with some different turbos. So we went to a full-built 363 dark block twin Garrett turbo 3076, which is a current motor with Holley EFI on it. The transmission is a dog box T101A. Okay. So that's been pretty solid over the years. We haven't, after we went through, multiple T5s at first, we figured out that ain't going to work. We dumped the Ford 9-inch and we went and grafted in the new S550 IRS rear end with the Ford Motorsport Racing axles and stuff, and G-Force axles. So that, and then so the current state, we did change up now and put we got rid of the Super 88 in there in the rear. We put a RTS quick change in the rear. So we're running the RTS quick change on the S550 rear, Ride Tech 4-way adjustable coilovers all the way around, and then the Mustang 2 front, but it's just the knuckles now. I built a custom single lower control arm, I guess, with a single upper A arm setup. It's kind of unique, but is it a perfect setup? No, I don't think it's perfect by any means, but it does get the job done.
Wow.
So,
that is golly. I mean, that is right there on the tiptoes of basically a pro-am car, pro-spec car of a build. I mean, if you really dig down into it.
It is probably as close to an old school Pro-Am as you're going to ever build, I mean, we have the rear mount radiator set up in there. The cooling's awesome. I mean, everything is pretty much top notch in an old school car, and that's kind of what we were shooting for at the end of the day, let's say, you know what I mean? To get something that was pretty solid, that was still pretty cool at the same time, which I always felt was, I mean, I'll be honest, I've been to Ford Fest and I've had my Mustang, which you've seen, the blue Mustang there, the S197 with the twin 436 twin turbo small block in it. And I'll set that beside the truck and they'll walk right past that to see the truck every time. So it's the old school stuff everybody likes, just because I think it's so different,
It's got to be the patina paint job, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you remember back when my car was all black and kind of rusty looking, missing the hood. Honestly, I think more people enjoyed that car back then than they do now with the nice, pretty looking wrap on, because now it looks like a drift car. Yeah, man, the truck is honestly, it's so perfect. I mean, it is the biggest eye grabber, and it just the way just watching it is just obscene. You're like, golly. I mean, what tires do you like to put on the back thing? Yeah, I mean, you got to be running a pretty big tire with it being twin turbo and stuff.
So I used to run the Maxxis 295s, but after COVID, I can't get them anymore. So the 295 40s I used to run. So now I'm running we run a rear 285 on them.
Okay. What? So you went from a solid axle 4-link to the Mustang IRS setup, right?
Yes.
Okay. So this is really a personal question for me, and I get asked this question sometimes. Did you feel a pretty big difference between the solid axle and the independent rear?
I did. I felt a huge difference, when we switched that over, which, to be honest, when we switched the rear, I didn't have the front done yet, right? Mm-hmm. So then after I took it to Import Alliance with the rear done, the rear was so good that the front was just garbage. And I was like, as soon as I took it home, I said, well, the rear is so good now, I've got to do something to get this front done. So I was just talking to Chris down there in Atlanta, and I was like, hey, here's where I'm at. And he kind of guided me a little bit, and I was like, I just one day at the shop cut it all off and started over. I was like, this ain't working, so I got to come up with something. So that's when I just started brainstorming, and then I went and I was having my clutch fixed down at in Knoxville. And to be honest, where I got my idea from was I was sitting there talking to the guys at the clutch shop, and we were looking at a dirt track car, and I was like, those things get a lot of angle. Let me walk over there and look at this thing. And I looked at it, I was like, that's what I need to do. So I kind of grafted an idea from the dirt track cars and put it under there, and just made all my own stuff, widen the front end. I had to get the front end a lot wider to keep up with the rear, and make it really turn that big truck, So that was a trial and error thing, but we got pretty close on the first go around on it. We just fine tuned a few things here and there, and like I said, it's not perfect, but it's definitely way better than it ever has been.
It's pretty cool, and it's quite fun to see what you can kind of steal from other motorsports, honestly. My dad, he was doing round track racing in the early 2000s, and so like just by default we put wedge bolts in the car to adjust ride height, and it was like showing up to the drift scene. Everyone was like, what? Like, I've never seen that done before. I'm like, dude, this is like what they just do, and it's crazy. I always thought to myself how cool it would be to take like a Trans Am car and convert it to a drift car, because they basically look kind of like a Pro 1 car out of the box.
Yes. Yeah, I've looked at a couple. We also toyed around with that idea one time. There was, I think, one for sale in the Nashville area, and we were like, But we had so many builds on our plate at the time that we just kind of got away from it, to be honest.
Yeah. Have you dabbled with any other motorsports through your life?
Yeah, so I grew up in Wisconsin, and our farming, and we did a lot of tractor pulling. So we started out tractor pulling. We did stock tractors, and we did super stock tractors, and we built actual modified tractors. And so I tractor pull a lot before I came south, and then once I came south, obviously there ain't that much tractor pulling in our area where we're at down there compared to central Wisconsin. So just kind of laid back a little bit and watched NASCAR for a while, and then was trying to figure out. I kind of told myself I really didn't want to get into circle track or anything like that, just because of the expense and the time commitment, but what's something I could find that I could do, that basically wouldn't be that expensive and could do it my own will. And that's where drifting kind of fell into the line, I guess.
So was drifting cheaper, or did you find out, like the rest of us, that it's a little more expensive than it seems on? That's what I hate about drifting too, is that there's two ports of it. You can go crazy with it. No offense, I think you went a little crazy with it looking at your builds, but you could also keep it cheap with a 350Z. But who wants to do that? To be fair, everybody wants a crazy build.
Yeah, no, I say the same thing. It's just where you want to end up at the end of the day, and how much time and effort you want to put into the sport. Obviously you can, like you say, you can stick a ton of money in, or you can go the cheap route. My cousin said it best one time when he seen me. He's like, I can't figure out if this sport is a rich man sport or a redneck sport or just a rich redneck, sport.
All the above.
It could be any of them.
Yeah. So which car? So out of all your drift cars, you had your 240s, you had your truck, and you've had your Mustang. Which car is which one do you think you could go win a comp in, and which one's your favorite to drive? Like when you go look in your garage, like that's the car I'm taking today.
So to be honest, the funnest one, by all means, is the truck, right? And definitely the one I would always lean to driving. I would say the Mustang, although I don't have a lot of seat time in it, would be the one I would probably go try it and do a comp with.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. I mean, it's hard to beat modern day angle kits, even though I know for a fact the angle kit on your truck is well engineered. I mean, I believe it was quite the masterpiece if I remember right. And but it's hard to beat those modern engineered cars, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of thought and engineering going into those cars, you know, where as of us, you know, when we build our own angle kits, you know, we have to look at that. We just have to decipher. We don't have, obviously, the technology and the tools to engineer it like, you know, the people that do. But we can look at it. We can trial and error it. We can say that didn't work. I need to do more of this. The car's doing that. You know, we just have to figure it out, change things up a few more times, you know, to make it work, right?
Right.
And that's just part of, like, you know, as we're having this interview today, I walk around here at 6 week here over in Ozark, Missouri right now. We're starting our 6 week Route 66 tour all the way to Roswell, New Mexico. And I walk around and look at all these builds, you know, and I'm like, you know, there's just a ton of homemade engineering, I guess you could say, in these vehicles, you know, and it's neat to see, you know, as far as that goes. That's kind of what I like to see, you know, somebody going out of the box and building stuff like this, you know.
Mm-hmm. So is the truck kind of finally at its end me, or did you find some limitation, or did you just say, like, is there something you could do? I mean, crazy call. Like, let's say you had a open check and you could put it towards the truck. Where is the limitations? Like, did you find a limitation? Is there something you could do better on the truck?
You know, so that's a real interesting question, and we backed up here just a little bit of I guess to answer that question, I could say we have a decent running truck, right? And it would handle, and I felt good in it, and you know, I just knew its mannerism, I guess you could say, and I could drive it well, and I took it to the next level, as you say. You know, maybe if you had an open check, you're like, what more can we do? So we went down that road and we're like, all right, let's redo stuff on this truck now to see if we can get it even better. Mm-hmm. Not knowing, right? So what do? We look at Pro-Am builds. What do they do? What do we got here? You know, so I didn't want to change the whole frame. I kept the 64 F100 frame, but we did as much as we could, and we revamped it, lightened it up, changed up stuff, maybe stiffer. We put a stiffer cage in the system, in the whole truck, you know, and lightened it all up. And it was so funny because when I got to Holly Ford Fest, I said, this truck is junk. I said, whatever we did ruined it. I was so mad. And I don't know why, because I think and to be honest, I still don't have a lot of seat time in it with the new setup in it. So I'm still trying to figure it out myself. But I think the way the chassis was operating and flexing prior to what we just did, these modifications, I just knew, and I knew how far I could push the truck. I knew when she'd snap. I knew when, when I could throw it and all that. And when I went out there to Holly, and as you know, Beach Bend, if you got that first wall, you don't have too many choices or chances to miss that entry, right? So I pushed a few times coming in, and I don't know if it was just me as the driver not hitting it as fast as I used to, or coming in as fast as I used to. You know, I don't know if I was pitching the truck and if I was expecting more out of the truck, you know, with these new changes or whatever, but it was pushing. And I was like, wow, I cannot get this thing to set down through that first turn. So I probably just made myself more and more nervous. You know how it works there when you start overthinking stuff. And finally, I got it through a few times. It was fine. After I got it through the first turn, I just couldn't get it to get through that turn like I used to. The rest of the track, I felt fine. But, you know, I was already not linking that first turn, so it kind of gets you out of your groove, you know. And I was like, I don't know what's going on with this truck. I actually tagged the wall over there toward the end. I kind of pushed the front a little, nothing, just more cosmetic than anything. So I took it home, and I was like, I do not know what we did, but to be honest, I know we stiffened it, you know, we lightened it. And that probably made a change, and I don't know where my balance is on the truck. I haven't had it back on the scales since then. So after I get done with this 6-week tour we're doing right now, before our next event, I'm going to try and throw her on the scale, see what I see where the weight change went and where the balance went, and see if I can decipher something there, and then go from there. But so as far as trying to make it better, we thought we did that. We're not sure if we went forward or backward, or if it's just the driver right now trying to learn a new setup. You know what I mean? I'm sure the truck is much better. It's just I may have to learn how to drive it a little differently, as far as entries and stuff. I don't know yet, but that's where I'm at. So.
Yeah. I mean, that's how progression happens. I remember very vividly going, replacing a power steering pump and just being like, what the heck what happened? It was like suddenly everything was obviously changed because you changed your power steering. But I mean, for me, it was like the car did not want to drive correctly anymore. And I ended up trying to put the old one back on and be like,
Right. And that, something as minor as that, which, once you said that, that's another change we did to that truck is we put electric steering on versus the hydraulic. But I didn't like the electric by itself. So last minute, we threw the hydraulic back on and kept the electric on assist. So I was running both steering systems over there at the same time, which maybe the feel in that electric column was throwing me off. I don't know. Like I was telling the guys, I'm like, maybe it's that electric steering and I don't feel the truck, like I'm used to, because, obviously with the hydraulic on there doing its thing and the electric on there doing its thing, and the steering, it's super simple, but maybe I lost the feel of the truck. That's something I'm still trying to learn. So I have both steering systems on the truck, currently running them too, but kind of takes the pressure off the hydraulic a little bit too for me, on that truck.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense because I mean, power steering pump, I would, alternator and power steering pumps, I think, are the two main accessories. Well, I mean, I guess it's really only two accessories you use, but it seems like those are just drifting, and those do not get along whatsoever because you wear them out, You overspin alternators, and you're cooking those power steering pumps. Really, I personally have a cooler on mine, and that's just to get by on, really.
Yeah, we tried, obviously we got rid of the Ford power steering, ran the GM style, and we tried to shim them, shim the pumps, and tried everything to get the flow rates right. We tried different pumps, setups, remotes, and remote reservoir pumps and Corvette style, and honestly, I could just never ever get anything to work on that truck. It's a 78 Thunderbird front rack on it yet, but it's so hard on pumps, and that's where I kind of, after we put the electric into Mustang, I'm like, man, we need to find electric in this truck. We went to the DC electric rack or column setup with it, at the manual rack. Now we kind of just plugged it, but now we're back to hydraulic too, so we're running them both. But it's all there. I think I just maybe got to maybe dial it down, feel it more. I don't know, but it was another change that we did, and the whole truck felt totally different when we got to the track. So I'm just trying to really figure out what changes and what's good, what's bad, or how to drive it at this point.
It did not help that it was at Beach Bend. Nah, I mean, I'll go in for that. I love Beach Bend. I hope we drift at Beach Bend until the world ends, basically. But Beach Bend is a terrifying track in its own manner. It is actually the only track that I've been to where I religiously wear a Hans device.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree that bank will get a lot of people. I mean, the only one I think I drove that was just sketchy was Nashville Fairgrounds, the big bank there. We sent it around that a few times, and that one too. It's you don't have a lot of forgiveness on them banks. You got to have your stuff together for sure.
That is so cool, and I mean, for the people that don't know, we back in the day they had the Fairground Speedway, which is literally like downtown Nashville. And it has some crazy banking, like I think even comparable to Bristol. And they had this thing called Turismo Drift back in the day. It was way before I ever got into drifting. David, tell us a little bit about Nashville Fairgrounds, because that there definitely has a cool little history behind it.
Yeah, so I did Turismo Drift back when Human Rahimi and Louis Garza had that going on there one time. Went down there with Nairn and them, and we took actually at the time we had Zach's car done, but it was just done at the time, so he was just kind of testing it. And then, of course, that bank is nowhere to be testing cars, so we kind of ran a little bit and decided to table that before it was just totaled, And then I put the truck up there on the bank, and I was like, well, guys were always telling me they were riding their foot around their, left foot braking that bank to stay up there and keep them spinning. I thought, well, I don't even know how to left foot brake, nor can I do it in this truck the way it's set up. I can't get my left foot over there, there's no way. So I'm like, I guess I'm just gonna floor it, So I went out there, and as normal, I was like, this truck has enough power. I'm just gonna power it, and I did. I mean, I did graze the wall one lap. I grazed the wall, but we just kind of bounced off and came right back to it, and put her into drift and got around there. And I guess my problem was coming off the big bank. You were carrying so much speed, especially if you weren't left footing it, to slow you down a little bit too as you were coming off the bank. And I had so much speed coming off the bank, it was setting it back down to get through that next S turn, So Nairn gave me a little pointer on, how to get the truck slowed down toward the end there, which really helped. And after we did that, we had a lot of fun there. I mean, was showboating a little bit toward the end with that semi. We were drifting, and I was just showboating right toward the end, giving exhibition shows, and I put her up against the wall pretty hard that night, and we had to do a little repair after that, but it was, the show was over, and we were just having fun at that point. And I think that's a lot of what the crowd wants to see. So they don't want to see you wreck it, but they certainly want to see you get close to it.
I remember getting into the scene and just looking up Tennessee Drift stuff, and Turismo Drift did come up, and I just remember being like wide-eyed seeing like a video. I just remember this iconic video of like there was hearse going around the bank, and then here comes you through the inside, and I was just like, wow, like drifting at the fairgrounds looked insane. I hope we go back there at some point, and I don't, I think it's coming. I think it's just taking a while, but
yeah, that is definitely a track that you'll find your limits on, let's say.
that's what some guys need, and it seems like the inside will be a great beginner spot, and then you can run the big bank for some more for some big horsepower. I would definitely want to take a small horsepower car on the big bank, but well, moving forward, dude, so I don't think I've actually seen you around too much this year. So you've been taking a little bit of an off season, or just been working on the truck and car. It sounds like you went to Ford Fest a couple weeks ago, right?
So we actually skipped Ford Fest. We had other things on the plate at the same time this year, so we weren't able to go over there. As far as the drift scene, we honestly, it's been life. It's been work. It's been projects I got going on that I can't get out as much as I used to. So I was like, well, I got to do what I got to do. Obviously life, you got to keep up with life. And so the trucks, actually in the meantime, while it was sitting and I wasn't out doing events, we had it totally rewired because it needed that, wiring is always a nightmare, it seems like. So I was like, just went through the whole entire truck and rewired it so it was 100%, so I feel like now it's, pretty much at its best. It can be ready to go, and I just got to find time, which I found time for this event. And then, you hit me up on that event out there in West Virginia. So I was like, I think I can slide that in before my next project starts, and we just keep going, finding them when we can,
Oh yeah, I can't even tell you how hyped I was when I reached out to you and you were like, yeah, I can make that work. And I'm like, yes, because like I just knew how like iconic your truck is and how long, and everybody knows about that truck. And so to bring such a legend to that track, I was like, that is freaking awesome, man. Have you ever been to Summit Point or out that way at all?
I have not, so that was kind of another reason I thought I would like to, just, go to a different track for once, and, drift some different tracks, that's really what I think will be enjoyable for me, you know, meeting new people. I mean, I meet new people everywhere. Like you say, they know the truck and they introduce themselves. And I've ran into people here that knew me, and I can't, you know, for the life of me, I remember everybody's names. They're like, Dave. And I'm like, yeah. I was like, you know, so it's kind of like if I forget somebody's name or your face. I don't usually forget faces, but names, you know, because we meet a lot of people and they introduce themselves. But, you know, you got to think, you know, they all see one truck and one face with it, you know, and they associate that. And I see lots of people when I'm out, you know, that come and talk and visit, you know, and it's just hard to remember everybody, you know. And I like going out and, you know, seeing new people, racing new venues, you know. It's similar like when we went to the NHRA 4 wide and did the event over there, you know, and it was so fun to watch people I've never seen drifting one, you know, because they're in the drag scene, come down and watch it, and then see an old school, you know, truck at that sliding around doing what it's doing. There's thousands of questions, you know, going on at that time, which is fun to tell them the story and how it happened and explain a little bit about the drifting, you know, and the scene and stuff, and open up their eyes a little bit to it too. But yeah, I enjoy the event. I would love to do it a lot more. It's just, you know, I got to find time with everybody.
Yeah, I definitely resonate with that. I am a little bit guilty of walking up to your son a couple times and be like, "What's up, David?" Because he's sitting in the truck, you know, he drives the truck also sometimes, and so I just assumed that was you, you know, before I really knew you.
Yeah. He's been trying to get his feet wet in it. He's been busy too with you know, with life and projects that we got going on. So he's been trying to get home and get his feet wet in it. I mean, we both have a hard time just finding time right now to get it somewhere. And, you know, so, it's hard for one person just to go. You know, you got to find someone. You'd like to find somebody. I mean, I've gone to events by myself, but it's a lot, you know, to unload, load, and,
oh yeah,
you know,
tons.
Throwing tires and change everything, keep an eye on everything, fuel everything. You know, just it's a lot. So everybody's busy. It's kind of like, well, you know, maybe I won't go this one or whatever. You know, that just helps you make a decision easier, I guess. But so we'll see. I mean, I definitely want to get it back out. I feel we have it ready now, fixed about as best we can. So we'll bring her over there to West Virginia, and we'll see what we can do there.
Yes, sir. I'm absolutely excited. So we're right about over 30 minutes here. So David, we're gonna finish out with man, do you have anybody you'd like to thank?
So I do. Obviously, my wife letting me do this, spending the money to do it, you know, and pursue it. But my second guy is my engine guy up there in London Chassis and Dyno, London, Kentucky, Chad Epperson. He helps keep us on point with the motor. The motor's been flawless, really, over the years. You know, before we got hooked up with him and, you know, doing the EFI stuff and the turbos and stuff, I highly lean on him for all our tuning and stuff. And he's been keeping us on track there. So he's a guy I go and lean on that end. And if we can keep that end together, the rest is on me to keep together. So.
All right, David. And if people want to see what you're up to throughout the year, what's the best way to see your social media stuff?
They can go on Instagram, you know, type in just.buildit. They can see what's going on. We'll hopefully load up more info here after we get through with West Virginia here. And and then they go on Facebook and just look up David Leffel. And I'd like to also say a little shout out to Louis at East End. He gave me the opportunity to bring the truck out and showcase it at, you know, multiple events and test it really, you know. So I'd like to thank him for letting us get that out there and bring it out. So
all right, thank you so much for your time, sir. I hope you have a safe travel out there. Don't blow any more trailer tires. We didn't talk about that in the interview, but we're going to put this little snippet here at the end of you of how this conversation started.
We got 8-10 more days of running, and now I'm going to come home and try and get that truck loaded in the trailer and wheel it right onto West Virginia. So let's all go forward from here.
Yeah, it's coming fast. It's coming fast. Yeah. So, sir, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.